Today we're going to be making reusable and washable coasters. You'll see here in your kits you would have received a bit of fabric that's been cut into squares. You have 2 of each fabric, some red and then some cafe styled. You'll have 4 of each color. You'll also have 4 pieces of interfacing, which is normally for quilting. You'll have some thread, some clips to hold your piece together, your sewing needle as always, and a needle threader. Starting off, I'm going to go ahead and thread my needle. If you don't see the end of the thread on your spool, you might have to twist the bottom a little bit, and that will give you some thread off it and you can kind of finagle it out of the bottom. I like to usually start out with probably about 1 meter. I usually use like my arm span as a measurement. Going ahead with my needle threader, I'm going to place it in the eye of my needle. So going through the eye, making sure it's through, then grabbing a little bit of thread and going through there probably about 2 to 3 inches. You don't want to go through all the way, and pulling off so that eventually the one slips out and you have your needle threaded. From there, we're going to go ahead and make sure that both of our tails are the same length. So here I'm just pulling on the one side and having a little bit of tension on the other so that I can pull them evenly. And I'm going to go ahead after this and throw a knot in the bottom. To make our knot, I'm just going to wrap the thread around my pointer finger probably 2 or 3 times, rolling it away from myself using my thumb. Then I'm going to pull tightly and a knot should be in the bottom. Now that we have everything ready, we're going to go ahead and start sewing. So what you're going to need to start is 1 piece of your fabric and 1 piece of your interfacing. What we're going to do is lay your fabric down, make sure it's nice and flat, then lay your interfacing on top, roughly in the center. Your interfacing goes into your coaster so that it can have a little more weight to it and be easier like to wash and stuff. So we're actually going to go ahead and attach the interfacing to this piece of fabric. So I'm just going through kind of the top corner there. And I'm going to go back through the fabric. You kind of want to make these stitches a bit closer together just because you will be able to see the stitch in the coaster, but because the thread is so close to the color of the fabric, it'll be kind of hard to find. We still just want to make sure that it's quite small though. Now we're just going to finish it off here because we only want 1 stitch in it. So what I'm doing here is I'm going into my knot with my sewing needle. I'm going to pull it through, but not going through all the way. Kind of takes a second to kind of fiddle with it to make sure that I'll have the right spot. So I'm going through, making sure to hold my loop as well so that I don't lose it. Then I'm going to take my needle and go through my loop probably about 3 or 4 times. Pulling the needle through is going to create a second knot on top of that, just so it holds the interfacing onto the fabric so that when we flip it inside out, it doesn't become a ball inside the coaster. So after I've done the one corner, I'm going to go ahead and just do it on the opposite corner, just again to make sure that the interfacing is going to stay connected to the fabric so that we don't lose it inside the coaster. now that we have that all set, we're going to actually go ahead and put both of our sides together, making sure that the knots are kind of tucked in. You're never going to see them again, but just making sure that they're not hanging over the edge. I'm going to go ahead and take both of the nice faces of our fabric and put them towards each other. So we're sandwiching them together, making sure they're lined up, and placing the clips we got on the top and the bottom. Doing this will make sure that the fabric doesn't slide around on you while you're making your stitches. Now we're going to go ahead with our thread and needle and start stitching around the coaster. So we are not starting on a corner. That's the one thing I don't want you guys to do, is start on a corner. Give it about like half an inch away from it to have more space there. We're just going in through the first part and then looping around to go back through where we came from. You want to be about halfway between the edge, so you have probably about an 1/8 of an inch, I'd say, from the interfacing to your stitches, and then another 1/8 of an inch to the end of the fabric. So you're going to go ahead and stitch all the way around, but I want you to leave about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of an opening, roughly about where one of our clips are, because we're going to flip the piece inside out. now we've sewn all the way around, leaving about 1 to 1.5 inches of space. I'm going to go ahead and finish my needle off here. I'm just going into my interfacing with it once because my stitch actually fell out. So sometimes in hand sewing you have to improvise. I'm just making a loop and then going through it as I did before, wrapping the thread around my needle probably 4 or 5 times just to make sure that I have a super secure knot. That's all set, I'm going to go ahead and turn my work inside out. So because interfacing is a bit more stiff, it borders on the side of fabric and felt, so it does have some structure to it. When you do flip your work inside out, it will be tricky because it's a smaller project, but just a lot of patience, a little bit at a time will go a longer way than trying to force it to turn inside out. Once we have all of our corners kind of popped out, you can see I'm kind of just going around and making sure that the interfacing is flat and not folded over. I'm going to pin the portion where there is an opening, where it starts and where it finishes, and we're going to go ahead and sew that first. The most important thing to remember here is that when I'm sewing my first stitch, I'm actually going inside the work. So I want the knot at the end of my thread to be buried inside the fabric. So I placed my needle actually inside the work. And then I'm just going to go ahead and sew continuously like I did before. I'm just going through. And I'm going to also do what's called a back stitch. So I'm going to do, once I get to the end, I will just turn around and fill in all the spaces that I missed. Doing this just creates a more uniform look and just a bit more secure for the piece. You can do it if you'd like, or you cannot, it's totally up to you. finishing off my knot here, trying to make it like kind of as neat as possible because we do see this knot on the outside. I'm going to complete all these steps with the rest of my pieces and all that so that I can have 4 lovely coasters to hopefully give to someone else, or they can be in my home. But there it is. It looks very lovely. So you'll see here that I repeated the process with my other red one. You guys will have 4 of these, so you'll have a complete set, whereas I only have 2. I wanted to show you for size as well, just a little bowl. It's a great size for any mug as well. I hope you guys had a lot of fun making these. I definitely had fun creating, and I'll see you on the next one.